Her voice echoed through the empty halls, weaving words in 11 different languages with flawless ease. The CEO paused mid-step, disbelief etched on her face. Who was this cleaner speaking like a diplomat? Moments later, a life was about to change forever. Welcome to Stories by Xavier. Let's uncover what really happened. I wasn't supposed to be at the office this early, but a surprise meeting pushed my schedule forward by hours. And as I walked into the gleaming glass lobby of Venturo Solutions, I felt the familiar buzz of power and precision that accompanied my every step. This building was my kingdom, where deals were made and futures shaped. But today, something different caught my attention. From around the corner, a voice drifted through the stillness, fluid, confident, and unmistakably foreign. At first, I thought it was one of the international executives preparing for the upcoming merger. But then the voice shifted seamlessly through another language. Then another. 11 distinct tongues flowed effortlessly in under a minute. Curiosity froze me mid-step. I followed the voice to find its source. A woman dressed in the company's janitorial uniform, meticulously wiping down the marble floors. She didn't seem to notice me watching. Her name tag read Maria. How could someone so hidden in the background possess such an extraordinary gift? I counted the languages as they rolled from her lips. Spanish, Mandarin, Arabic, French, Russian. Each accent perfect, each phrase clear. It was a jolt to my system. All my life, I'd been surrounded by polished resumes, polished suits, and polished smiles. Yet here was Maria, cleaning floors, yet speaking like a seasoned diplomat. I felt a mix of admiration and a prick of shame. How often do we overlook brilliance simply because it wears the wrong uniform? This moment planted a seed of change in me. Maybe talent wasn't always where I expected it to be. I took a deep breath and decided right then I needed to know Maria's story. Because today, the definition of potential was about to be rewritten. Welcome to Judgment Day Stories. Let's uncover what really happened. After that morning encounter, Maria's voice lingered in my mind long after the last syllable faded. How could someone with such remarkable skill be working as a cleaner in my own company? I knew I had to learn more, but discretion was essential. I didn't want to make her uncomfortable or create office gossip. Over the next few days, I found myself observing her from a distance. Maria moved with quiet efficiency, meticulous in her work, yet always composed, even in the chaos of busy office hours. But it was her quiet confidence, the calm way she greeted everyone, that drew me in. There was a dignity in her presence that didn't match the janitor's uniform she wore. I asked a few trusted team members about her. Most shrugged. Maria kept to herself. Some saw her as just part of the background, an invisible fixture who did her job without complaint. But no one spoke of her languages, her education, or her journey. It was as if the skills she possessed were invisible, overshadowed by her role. This was a stark reminder of the walls we build around people based on their job titles or appearances. I thought about the countless resumes I'd skimmed, brilliant on paper, but lacking the spark I'd just witnessed in Maria. One afternoon, chance gave me a better glimpse. Maria was speaking softly with a visitor in fluent Arabic, effortless, natural, respectful. The visitor's eyes lit up, visibly impressed. I realized then how many opportunities might be slipping through our fingers simply because we fail to look beyond surface labels. That day, a quiet resolve took root inside me. If talent was hidden in plain sight, it was my responsibility to uncover it and to offer a platform where it could shine. Maria wasn't just a cleaner. She was a world of untapped potential, waiting to be recognized. The question was, would she want to be seen? And more importantly, would she trust me enough to let me help? One rainy evening, I found Maria alone in the break room, her eyes quietly focused on a well-worn notebook. I approached gently, not wanting to startle her. "Mind if I sit?" I asked. She looked up, surprise flickering across her face, but nodded. What followed was a conversation I hadn't expected. Maria spoke softly but with conviction about her life. A story woven with sacrifice, resilience, and dreams deferred. Born in a small town far from here, She grew up in a family that valued education but faced harsh economic realities. Languages came naturally to her, a gift she honed by listening to travelers, watching foreign films, and practicing with neighbors from diverse backgrounds. But life had forced her onto a different path. Immigration challenges, family responsibilities, and a need to make ends meet had led her here, to this job, far from the world she had envisioned. Her words painted vivid pictures. Late nights studying by dim light, taking on odd jobs, always learning, always hoping. Despite the hardships, she never lost her spark. Listening, I felt a deep respect for her courage and humility. Here was someone who had mastered more than languages. She had mastered survival and grace under pressure. I realized that Maria's story wasn't unique. It was the story of many invisible people who possessed talents buried beneath life's burdens. It struck me how much potential we waste by judging solely on appearance or position. That moment crystallized my mission. If there was any way to help Maria reclaim the path she deserved, I had to find it. She wasn't just a cleaner. She was a living testament to hidden brilliance. But helping her wouldn't be simple. Years of underestimation had left scars. Would Maria believe in a future where she was seen for who she truly was? The answer to that question would define everything. As I reflected on Maria's story, I couldn't shake a profound realization. How often do we allow stereotypes to cloud our judgment? In boardrooms and business meetings, we speak of innovation and inclusion, yet the very foundations of our thinking often rest on preconceived notions of who belongs and who does not. Maria shattered those illusions. A cleaner, yet fluent in 11 languages. A woman whose intellect and experience went unnoticed simply because of her uniform. It was a glaring contradiction that challenged the very culture we'd built. I thought about my own biases, the subtle assumptions I'd made without even realizing. How many times had I dismissed someone's potential based on their role, appearance, or background? How many hidden gems had slipped through the cracks? This moment became a mirror, forcing me to confront the invisible walls society constructs, walls that confine not just individuals but entire communities from rising. But recognizing the problem was only the start. The real test was what to do about it. How do you create space in an organization for those who don't fit the traditional mold? How do you rewrite the narrative to include voices and talents long ignored? I knew one thing for certain. Maria's story was more than a personal tale. It was a challenge to the entire system. Change starts with intention and courage. It requires leaders willing to look beyond convention and embrace the unexpected. For Maria, for people like her, and for the future of our company, I had to break those stereotypes. Not with empty promises, but with real action. The question wasn't just what Maria could do for us. It was what we could do to lift her up. And I was ready to find out. The days that followed were a whirlwind of thought and planning. I couldn't get Maria out of my mind. The undeniable talent, the untapped potential, and the injustice of it all. She deserved more than to be invisible. But I had to be strategic. A sudden gesture without preparation could backfire. For Maria, for the company, and for the message I wanted to send. I reviewed our company's policies, brainstormed possible roles where her language skills and intelligence could be game changers. International client relations, translation and communication, cultural liaison. Each idea seemed promising, but none felt complete without Maria's own input. I decided that the next step was to speak with her directly, to listen to her hopes, fears, and expectations. I drafted an email to my assistant, requesting her to arrange a meeting with Maria, ensuring it was confidential and comfortable. As the day approached, I felt a mix of anticipation and responsibility. This wasn't just a promotion. It was a lifeline, a chance to rewrite a story that had been written for Maria by circumstances beyond her control. What if she refused? What if she felt unworthy? Or worse, what if the company wasn't ready to accept such a change? Despite the doubts, I knew I couldn't ignore this moment. For Maria, and for the future of Venturo Solutions, I had to act. The decision was clear. I would offer Maria an opportunity to rise, not as a token gesture, but as a testament to true merit. The only question now was how she would respond. I found Maria waiting in the quiet conference room, her hands folded neatly on her lap. She looked calm but wary, eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity and caution. This was a moment that could change everything, and I needed to approach it with respect and sincerity. Maria, I began, my voice steady. I've been watching you, and more importantly, listening. Your skills, your story, they deserve to be recognized, not hidden. She blinked, surprise flickering across her face. I'm just doing my job, she replied softly, almost as if unsure why this mattered. No, I said firmly. You're so much more than that. 11 languages fluently spoken. The patience and dedication you show every day, it's rare. I want to offer you a chance to use your talents in a new role here, one that suits you. Her eyes searched mine, doubt and hope warring within. But I'm just a cleaner. I don't have a fancy degree or experience in business. I shook my head gently. Experience isn't always on paper. It's in your resilience, your skills, your ability to connect across cultures. That's invaluable. You've already proven that. The silence hung heavy as she processed my words. Finally, she spoke, voice barely above a whisper. Why me? Because, I said, sometimes the most brilliant people are the ones overlooked. And it's up to us to change that. She exhaled slowly, a subtle smile breaking through. I never thought someone would see me like this. I smiled back. Then let's make sure you're seen, heard, and valued. In that moment, a bond formed, one built on trust, respect, and a shared vision for change. What came next would be a journey neither of us could have predicted. Despite the offer, I could see the hesitation in Maria's eyes. Years of being underestimated had left deep scars. She was a woman shaped by resilience, but also shadowed by self-doubt. I'm honored, she said quietly, but this is so sudden. I don't know if I'm ready for something like this. What if I fail? What if I can't live up to the expectations? I nodded, understanding that fear. Change is daunting, especially when it comes unexpectedly. Maria, nobody expects perfection. What matters is your courage to try. I'm here to support you every step of the way. She glanced down, fiddling with the edge of her sleeve. I'm afraid people will judge me. They'll see me as just the cleaner, trying to fit in a world that wasn't made for me. That world is exactly why you need to be here, I said firmly. You represent those who are often overlooked, unheard. Your success will break barriers and inspire others. A flicker of resolve crossed her face. I want to believe that, but it's hard to shake the years of silence and invisibility. I know, I said gently. That's why this isn't just about a job. It's about rewriting the story, yours and others like you. You don't have to do this alone. She took a deep breath, eyes meeting mine with newfound determination. Okay, I'll try. The weight of her words settled in the room. It was the first step of a journey that would challenge us both in ways we hadn't imagined. Together, we were about to change the narrative, one brave choice at a time. The next morning, I called Maria into my office. The sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a glow on the sleek, modern space where so many deals had been struck. But today, this room wasn't about business as usual. It was about opening doors. I handed her a formal letter outlining an offer to join our international communications team. Her role would tap into her multilingual skills, assisting with global clients, translating critical documents, and bridging cultural gaps. Maria's eyes widened as she read. This is more than I ever imagined. It's well-deserved, I said. You've shown us a side of talent too often hidden in plain sight. She looked up, vulnerability mixed with excitement. I don't want to disappoint you or the company. You won't, I assured her. You bring a perspective and skill set we desperately need. And if challenges come, we face them together. Her fingers tightened around the letter. Thank you for believing in me. I smiled. No, thank you for being brave enough to take this step. That day, Maria didn't just accept a new position. She accepted a future full of possibility, and we both committed to making sure her path was supported and clear. It wasn't just a promotion, it was a statement. A declaration that talent could rise from anywhere, no matter how unlikely the place it was found. The company would soon see that investing in people like Maria wasn't charity. It was smart business. And for Maria, it was the beginning of a transformation few would forget. As Maria walked out of my office clutching the offer letter, a mixture of excitement and anxiety washed over her. This was a new world, one filled with opportunity but also uncertainty. She had accepted a chance few ever got, but the fear of the unknown gnawed quietly at the edges of her mind. The sterile hallways she once cleaned now seemed intimidating rather than familiar. Would her colleagues see her as an equal or just a janitor who got lucky? Would she stumble over corporate jargon or fail to meet expectations? She replayed the CEO's words in her head about courage, breaking barriers, and rewriting stories. The support was real, but the pressure was heavier than she anticipated. That evening, Maria sat alone in her modest apartment, the letter on the table glowing under a single lamp. Her hands trembled as she folded it carefully, a physical act of accepting both hope and fear. Her family, too, celebrated, though they worried. "You've worked so hard," her mother said, eyes shimmering with pride and concern. "But remember, this world can be unforgiving." Maria nodded. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she was determined. This wasn't just about a job. It was a chance to prove to herself and everyone else that where you start doesn't dictate where you can go. In the quiet of that night, Maria made a silent promise. She wouldn't let fear hold her back. She would embrace every challenge and turn every doubt into strength. Because this opportunity wasn't just for her, it was for everyone who had ever been overlooked. Maria's first day in her new role was a whirlwind of introductions, meetings, and learning. The sleek conference rooms, the hum of negotiations, the rapid-fire conversations in multiple languages, all a stark contrast to the quiet solitude of the nights spent cleaning floors. She dove into training with determination, absorbing new terminology, company protocols, and client profiles. Her linguistic skills were impressive, but adapting to the corporate culture was an entirely different challenge. There were moments of self-doubt, fumbling a technical term, hesitating in a meeting, wondering if she truly belonged. But each time, she reminded herself of the journey that had brought her here, the sacrifices made, and the eyes of those who believed in her. Some colleagues were welcoming, offering guidance and encouragement. Others were indifferent or skeptical, their sideways glances and whispered questions a reminder that acceptance wasn't guaranteed. Still, Maria pressed on. Her resilience was fueled by a quiet fire, the refusal to let past roles define her future. She sought to learn, to grow, to prove that talent transcended titles. As weeks passed, small victories accumulated. A successful client call in Mandarin, a flawlessly translated proposal, positive feedback from her manager. Each success built her confidence, slowly eroding the fears that once loomed large. Maria was no longer just a cleaner who spoke 11 languages. She was becoming a valued part of the team, a living testament to what courage and opportunity could achieve. And the company was beginning to see it too. Despite Maria's growing success, the corporate corridors whispered a different story. Not everyone welcomed change, especially when it challenged long-held assumptions and comfort zones. Some colleagues questioned her promotion behind closed doors. "How does a cleaner fit into this role?" they murmured. Was this just a token move by the CEO? Their doubts weren't always voiced openly, but the skepticism was palpable. At team meetings, subtle coldness greeted Maria's ideas. A raised eyebrow here, a dismissive glance there. It was clear that not everyone believed she belonged. Even some senior managers expressed reservations, concerned about how clients might perceive the shift. Is this setting a precedent that might undermine professionalism? One whispered during a strategy session. These undercurrents weighed heavily on Maria. The same people who praised diversity in speeches sometimes resisted in practice. The invisible barriers were hard to break. But Maria refused to be deterred. She channeled the quiet strength that had carried her this far. Each challenge became fuel, a reason to work harder, to prove them wrong not with anger, but with excellence. I made it clear from the top that Maria's role was not symbolic. It was strategic and vital. I encouraged her, backed her decisions, and challenged the team to look beyond stereotypes. The resistance revealed something crucial. Real change isn't easy. It requires patience, persistence, and a commitment to justice over convenience. Maria's journey was about more than her own success. It was about dismantling the walls that keep so many talented people invisible. And together, we were ready to break them down. The road wasn't smooth, but Maria's determination only grew stronger. Every skeptical glance, every whispered doubt became a challenge she was determined to meet head-on. She knew she had to prove, not just to others, but to herself, that she belonged here. Her language skills became her strongest asset. When a major client from the Middle East threatened to walk away over a miscommunication, Maria stepped in, effortlessly bridging the cultural and linguistic divide. The client was impressed not only by her fluency, but by her understanding of their customs and business etiquette. Word spread. Slowly, her colleagues began to take notice. The same people who once doubted her started seeking her advice on international deals and translations. Her value became undeniable. Maria also faced the internal challenge of adapting to corporate protocols and expectations. She took extra courses on business communication and corporate culture, eager to bridge the gap between where she had been and where she was going. Yet, despite progress, there were setbacks, moments when the weight of scrutiny and prejudice threatened to overwhelm her. But she learned to lean on her quiet resilience, drawing strength from the belief that her journey mattered beyond herself. Each success was a brick in the foundation of change, not just for Maria, but for everyone who had been overlooked or underestimated. Through perseverance, skill, and grace, Maria was transforming obstacles into opportunities, reshaping the narrative one day at a time. Amid the resistance and challenges, something unexpected began to emerge: quiet allies. Colleagues who recognized Maria's talent and integrity, offering support in subtle but meaningful ways. Jessica from marketing started including Maria in project meetings, valuing her multilingual insights. Carlos from operations lent a hand during busy days, sharing tips on navigating company systems. Even some skeptical managers began acknowledging her contributions behind closed doors. These allies didn't always make a public show of their support. Instead, they provided encouragement through small gestures, a nod of approval, a timely email, or a moment of mentorship. For Maria, this network was a lifeline. It reminded her that change was not a solitary battle, but a collective effort. Each ally was a piece of the puzzle, helping to shift the company culture from within. I made a point to foster this spirit of inclusion, encouraging teams to embrace diversity not as a checkbox, but as a strength. Maria's journey became a catalyst, inspiring others to reconsider their own assumptions. The quiet support grew louder over time, creating ripples of change in unexpected corners of the organization. And though the road ahead remained long, Maria no longer walked it alone. The moment Maria had been working toward arrived unexpectedly during a high-stakes client negotiation. A multinational corporation with interests in Asia had expressed hesitation about partnering with us, citing concerns over communication barriers and cultural misunderstandings. As the meeting began, tension filled the room. Our usual translators were unavailable, and the language gap threatened to derail weeks of preparation. Seizing the moment, Maria stepped forward confidently. Switching effortlessly between Mandarin and English, she navigated the conversation with grace and precision. But more than just language, she demonstrated a deep understanding of the client's cultural nuances, knowing when to pause, when to emphasize, and when to respectfully disagree. The room shifted. The client's guarded expressions softened, replaced by nods of approval and genuine engagement. By the end of the meeting, the deal was sealed, a victory not just for the company, but a personal triumph for Maria. Her colleagues, some of whom had once doubted her, now saw her in a new light. Emails of congratulations flooded in, and her manager praised her professionalism and skill. That day marked a turning point. Maria was no longer an anomaly, but a valued asset, a living example of how hidden talent could transform challenges into opportunity. The success was sweeter because it wasn't just about business. It was about breaking barriers and rewriting the rules. Maria's journey was far from over, but with this win, the foundation for lasting change had been firmly laid. The moment Maria had been working toward arrived unexpectedly during a high-stakes client negotiation that could make or break a major expansion into Asia. A multinational corporation had expressed serious hesitation about partnering with us, citing concerns over language barriers and cultural misunderstandings that could jeopardize the deal. As the meeting began, tension filled the sleek conference room. Our usual translators were suddenly unavailable due to unforeseen circumstances, and a language gap threatened to unravel weeks of meticulous preparation. The client representatives exchanged worried glances. The atmosphere was thick with uncertainty. Seizing the moment, Maria stepped forward with quiet confidence. She introduced herself smoothly, then shifted effortlessly between Mandarin and English, expertly guiding the conversation. But what set her apart wasn't just her fluency. It was her deep understanding of the client's cultural nuances, the subtle pauses, respectful tones, and knowing when to emphasize key points or offer gentle corrections. The room shifted. The guarded expressions softened, replaced by nods of approval and engaged smiles. The client was visibly impressed, not only by Maria's language skills, but by her grasp of their business culture and etiquette. She navigated tricky questions and concerns with grace and precision, building trust where there had been hesitation. By the meeting's close, the deal was sealed, a victory not just for the company, but a personal triumph for Maria. Her success was a powerful statement that talent and dedication could overcome barriers, no matter where they were found. Back at the office, congratulations poured in. Colleagues who had once doubted her sent emails praising her professionalism. Her manager commended her skillful handling of the situation and urged the team to lean more on her unique abilities. That day marked a turning point for Maria. She was no longer an anomaly or an experiment. She had become an invaluable asset and an inspiration. Her breakthrough was proof that recognizing and investing in hidden talent could transform challenges into opportunity. Though her journey was far from over, Maria had firmly laid the foundation for lasting change, both for herself and for everyone who believed in breaking down barriers. News travels fast, especially when a story breaks through the usual noise. Within days of Maria's breakthrough success, whispers in the office became headlines beyond our walls. The story of the cleaner turned corporate star spread like wildfire. A local business journal picked up the tale first, highlighting how a woman once invisible in the shadows of the office was now bridging global deals with ease and expertise. Then social media buzzed, sharing snippets of Maria's journey, her struggles, her talents, and her quiet rise. Reporters reached out, eager for interviews and photos. Suddenly, Maria's story was everywhere, on news websites, podcasts, and even morning talk shows. Her face became a symbol of hope for anyone doubting their place in a world seemingly reserved for the privileged. The media framed her not as a one-off success, but as a powerful example of what organizations could achieve when they look beyond titles and stereotypes. The narrative resonated deeply in a society grappling with diversity and inclusion. Yet, amidst the spotlight, Maria remained humble. She declined many interview requests, choosing instead to focus on her work and her new responsibilities. The attention was overwhelming, but she stayed grounded, reminding herself why she had taken this path, to prove that talent exists everywhere. The company responded quickly. Press releases highlighted our commitment to recognizing hidden potential. Internal newsletters celebrated Maria's achievements, encouraging others to rethink their biases. But media attention brought both praise and pressure. Some critics questioned whether Maria's rise was a publicity stunt. Others wondered if she could sustain her success in the demanding corporate world. Maria faced this scrutiny with quiet resilience. She knew that changing perceptions wasn't about momentary headlines, but consistent performance and integrity. Through it all, the message was clear: talent cannot be defined by background or job title. It must be nurtured and given room to flourish. Maria's story was no longer just hers. It had become a beacon, inspiring change far beyond the walls of Venturo Solutions. And as the spotlight shone brighter, the company and Maria prepared for the next chapter of transformation. While the world outside celebrated Maria's rise, inside the company, a quieter but no less intense storm was brewing. The higher-ups, particularly some board members and senior executives, viewed the rapid change with suspicion and unease. For years, Venturo Solutions had operated under a familiar structure, one that prioritized traditional credentials and a certain corporate image. Maria's promotion and the attention it attracted challenged that status quo, unsettling those comfortable with the established order. Whispers circulated in closed-door meetings. "Are we risking too much for the sake of image?" one executive asked. "This could alienate longtime clients or unsettle staff who value proven experience," another warned. The tension was palpable. Some feared that Maria's story, while inspiring, might be seen as a token gesture rather than a strategic move. They worried about setting precedents that could disrupt hiring and promotion policies. Behind the scenes, discussions grew heated. Questions about Maria's qualifications and readiness were raised repeatedly. Would she meet the high demands of corporate diplomacy? Could she maintain the professionalism expected at Venturo's level? I stood firm amidst the turmoil, advocating for the value Maria brought. I reminded the board that innovation often required breaking molds and taking calculated risks. Diversity was not just a buzzword, but a necessity for growth. Still, the resistance tested our resolve. It revealed how deeply ingrained biases and fears could obstruct progress, even when the evidence of success was clear. Maria sensed the undercurrents, but remained focused. She refused to let internal politics shake her confidence. Together, we prepared to confront these challenges head-on, knowing that change would not come easily or without opposition. This internal struggle was as critical as any external negotiation, a battle for the company's future identity and values. And it would demand every ounce of courage and determination from all of us. The boardroom was tense, thick with skepticism as I stood to address the concerns swirling among the executives. I could feel the weight of tradition pushing against the wave of change Maria's success had ignited. Understand the doubts. I began, steady and deliberate. Change is uncomfortable, but innovation demands we challenge the status quo. Maria's rise is not a token gesture. It's a testament to recognizing talent where it exists. Heads nodded, some reluctantly, as I laid out the undeniable results. The client deals secured, the expanded market reach, the positive cultural shift already underway. Data, not just emotion, backed her impact. I emphasized that diversity wasn't merely about optics, but a strategic advantage. We need fresh perspectives, new voices, and inclusivity at every level to thrive in today's global market. Maria embodies that. Then I made it personal. This is about more than business. It's about fairness, opportunity, and the values we claim to uphold. I ask you to stand with me, to back Maria not just in words, but in action. The room fell into a thoughtful silence. Some still harbored reservations, but others began to see the bigger picture, the future we could build. Later, I spoke privately with Maria. "This is your moment," I told her, "not just to succeed, but to lead the way for others who've been overlooked." She nodded, determination shining through. "I won't let you down." Standing firm amid resistance wasn't easy. It meant facing entrenched biases and risking pushback. But leadership required courage to do what was right, even when uncomfortable. By taking this stand, I hope to signal to the entire company and beyond that talent and integrity would always outshine prejudice. Maria's success was no longer just her story. It had become a movement. And as CEO, I was committed to making sure it endured. As weeks turned into months, Maria's transformation became increasingly evident. Each day, she walked into the office with a growing confidence that radiated from within, a quiet power shaped by her unwavering commitment and the challenges she had overcome. She embraced her role fully, mastering not only languages, but the intricacies of corporate communication and strategy. Her ability to connect with clients across cultures became invaluable, opening doors to markets that had once seemed out of reach. More importantly, Maria began to find her voice, not just in meetings, but as a respected contributor to the company's vision. Her ideas, once met with skepticism, now sparked conversations and inspired new initiatives. Behind the scenes, she worked tirelessly to build relationships, mentor new hires from diverse backgrounds, and advocate for inclusive practices. Her journey from the cleaning staff to a leadership role became a beacon of possibility within a company. Maria's growth wasn't without obstacles. The pressure to constantly prove herself weighed heavily, and moments of doubt occasionally surfaced. Yet, with each hurdle, she drew strength from her past, reminding herself why she had fought so hard to get here. Her personal evolution mirrored a broader shift in the company culture. Teams became more open, dialogues about diversity deepened, and a sense of belonging blossomed. I watched with pride as Maria stepped into her power, not just as a skilled professional, but as a symbol of resilience and change. She was no longer simply breaking glass ceilings. She was building new ones for others to climb. Her story inspired many, reminding us all that growth comes not just from opportunity, but from the courage to embrace it fully. Maria had become more than an employee. She was a leader, a mentor, and a catalyst for transformation. And as her journey continued, so did the promise of a more inclusive and dynamic future for our company. While Maria's professional growth was inspiring, it came with personal sacrifices that few outside her inner circle could see. Balancing her demanding new role with the realities of her past wasn't easy, and the pressure often weighed heavily on her shoulders. She found herself caught between two worlds: the corporate environment full of high expectations and a modest life she had built before this transformation. Family gatherings reminded her of simpler times, yet also highlighted the widening gap between her old life and new responsibilities. The long hours, constant travel, and the need to prove herself repeatedly left little time for rest or reflection. At times, Maria felt isolated, as if she were walking a tightrope with no safety net. She struggled with guilt too. How could she embrace this new life while her loved ones continued to face challenges she had left behind? Would her success alienate her from those she cared about most? Despite the doubts, Maria found strength in her purpose. She reminded herself that her journey wasn't just about personal advancement. It was about opening doors for others like her. She began to share her experiences more openly, finding solace in conversations with colleagues who understood the complexities of growth and change. Mentorship became a source of renewal, connecting her to those navigating similar paths. The personal cost was undeniable, but so was the reward. Maria was rewriting not only her story, but also the narratives of countless others who dreamed of more. I saw her resilience firsthand. A woman who faced the pressures of success without losing sight of her roots or her mission. Her journey underscored a vital truth. Progress often demands sacrifice, but with courage and support, it can also bring profound fulfillment. Maria's story was a testament to the complexities of transformation, reminding us that behind every triumph lies a human being navigating challenges both seen and unseen. And through it all, she remained a beacon of hope, inspiring change far beyond the walls of our company. Maria's rise was no longer just a personal success story. It was transforming lives far beyond the walls of our company. As word of her journey spread, she became a symbol of hope and possibility for communities often overlooked and underestimated. Local immigrant organizations invited her to speak at events, sharing her experiences with young people struggling to find their place in unfamiliar worlds. Her story resonated deeply with those who faced barriers similar to her own: language challenges, economic hardship, and systemic bias. Maria spoke not just about professional achievement, but about resilience, courage, and the power of believing in oneself despite the odds. Her words sparked inspiration and action, encouraging others to pursue their dreams and advocate for change. Schools and community centers began to see increased interest in language programs and vocational training, motivated by Maria's example. Partnerships formed between Venturo Solutions and nonprofit organizations to create pathways for talent from diverse backgrounds. Within the company, Maria led initiatives to recruit and support employees from marginalized groups, emphasizing mentorship and career development. Her vision was clear: opportunity should be accessible to all, not just a privileged few. The impact rippled outward. Stories of individuals inspired by Maria's journey emerged: cleaners learning new skills, immigrants gaining confidence, and young women embracing leadership roles. For Maria, this broader influence was both humbling and empowering. She recognized that her success carried responsibility, a duty to lift others as she rose. I watched with pride as Maria's influence expanded beyond business metrics and boardrooms, touching hearts and minds in communities that needed it most. Her journey was a reminder that true leadership is not just about titles or achievements, but about inspiring transformation at every level. Through her, we witnessed how one person's courage and perseverance could ignite a movement, one that changed lives, challenged norms, and opened doors for generations to come. Maria had become more than an employee or leader. She was a catalyst for lasting change, and her story was only beginning. Maria's journey sparked more than inspiration. It ignited a movement within our company. Leadership recognized that to truly embrace the values Maria represented, Venturo Solutions needed systemic change, policies and practices that fostered inclusion beyond rhetoric. We began with a thorough review of recruitment, promotion, and training procedures. The goal was to dismantle barriers that had allowed bias, often unconscious, to dictate who was seen and who was overlooked. New programs were launched to identify hidden talents within every level of the organization. Language skills, cultural fluency, and diverse life experiences became valued assets, not just nice-to-haves. Mandatory unconscious bias training was implemented for all employees, from interns to executives. Workshops challenged assumptions, encouraged empathy, and equipped teams to recognize and counteract prejudice. A mentorship initiative paired high-potential employees from underrepresented backgrounds with senior leaders, creating pathways for growth and leadership development. Maria herself became a mentor, guiding others through challenges she had once faced. The company's values were redefined to emphasize equity, respect, and opportunity as foundational pillars. Communication shifted from empty slogans to concrete actions with measurable outcomes. We also established feedback channels, allowing employees to report discrimination or exclusion safely and anonymously. Accountability became central, with clear consequences for violations. This cultural overhaul was not without resistance. Change challenged comfort zones, disrupted old hierarchies, and demanded honest reflection. But it was necessary. Maria's story was a catalyst, but the reform was a collective commitment, one that required every member of Venturo Solutions to participate. I saw firsthand how these efforts began to reshape workplace dynamics, fostering a more inclusive, innovative, and vibrant culture. The company's success soon reflected this transformation: improved employee satisfaction, stronger client relationships, and enhanced creativity. Corporate reform wasn't just a response to a moment. It was an investment in the future, a future where talent from all walks of life could thrive. Maria's journey had taught us that true progress demands more than acknowledgement. It requires action. And with each policy change and each new opportunity created, we took a step closer to a workplace and a world that truly valued everyone's potential. With her role firmly established and the company beginning to transform, Maria's focus expanded beyond her immediate responsibilities. She began crafting a vision for lasting change, a blueprint to ensure that what had happened to her would not be an exception, but the norm. Maria proposed initiatives aimed at identifying and nurturing hidden talents within the organization. Programs designed to look beyond traditional resumes and titles to discover potential wherever it resided. Her ideas included language workshops led by multilingual employees, cultural exchange forums, and talent scouting within all departments, especially roles often overlooked. She championed mentorship programs pairing newcomers from underrepresented backgrounds with seasoned professionals, creating supportive networks that fostered growth and belonging. Maria also advocated for continuous bias training, not as a one-time exercise, but an ongoing cultural commitment. She emphasized the need for transparent performance metrics that valued diverse skills and experiences equally. Presenting her vision to leadership, she spoke passionately about how inclusivity wasn't just morally right, but critical for innovation and competitive advantage. She argued that a diverse workforce brought creativity, problem-solving, and empathy, qualities essential for global success. Her proposals were met with enthusiasm, inspiring new task forces and committees dedicated to implementing these changes. Maria was invited to lead several initiatives, her influence growing beyond her original role. Within teams, she encouraged open dialogue about diversity, equity, and inclusion, creating safe spaces for honest conversations and shared learning. Maria's vision wasn't confined to policies. It was about culture, a culture where every employee felt seen, valued, and empowered to contribute their unique strengths. Her journey had transformed her into a leader who didn't just break barriers but built bridges for others to cross. Her vision was a beacon guiding the company toward a future where talent and opportunity were truly equitable. And as her ideas took root and flourished, it became clear that Maria's impact would resonate far beyond the walls of Venturo Solutions. The day of the company-wide celebration arrived, a moment to honor Maria's achievements and the sweeping changes her journey had inspired. The auditorium buzzed with anticipation as employees gathered to witness a symbol of transformation that extended far beyond individual success. As Maria stepped onto the stage, the applause was thunderous. This was not just a celebration of one woman's rise, but a collective triumph over barriers that had long held many back. She spoke with a steady voice, sharing her story, not just the highs, but the struggles, doubts, and moments of fear. Her honesty resonated deeply, reminding everyone that true success is born of resilience and courage. The CEO followed, reaffirming the company's commitment to diversity and inclusion, and announcing new initiatives to sustain the momentum. Together, they unveiled a scholarship fund for underrepresented youth pursuing education in languages and international relations, a tangible investment in the future. The event was more than symbolic. It was a call to action, a promise that the company would continue evolving, breaking down old walls, and building a culture where every voice mattered. Colleagues who once doubted Maria now stood beside her, their support genuine and enthusiastic. The quiet allies had become champions, embodying the spirit of change. As the celebration ended, Maria mingled with employees, sharing laughter, advice, and inspiration. She had become a mentor, a leader, and a beacon of possibility. Her journey, from the floors she once cleaned to the podium she now commanded, was a powerful narrative of transformation that challenged assumptions and ignited hope. This triumph was not an endpoint, but a milestone on a path toward greater equity and inclusion. The company had been forever changed, and so had the lives of countless individuals inspired by Maria's example. Her story was proof that when talent is recognized and nurtured, barriers crumble and new possibilities emerge. Maria's triumph was a victory for everyone who believed in the power of opportunity. And the change she sparked promised to ripple outward for years to come. As the celebrations settled and the spotlight dimmed, Maria and I found a quiet moment to reflect on the journey we had embarked upon together. What began as a chance encounter had blossomed into a transformation, not just for Maria or the company, but for countless others whose stories have been waiting to be told. Maria spoke softly, her eyes reflecting a mix of pride and humility. "This isn't just my story anymore," she said. "It's about everyone who's been overlooked, underestimated, and denied opportunity. I want to make sure their voices are heard." I nodded, knowing that her vision extended far beyond any title or accolade. The legacy we were building was one of inclusivity, fairness, and empowerment. Together, we discussed plans to formalize programs that would continue to identify hidden talent and break down barriers. We envisioned a company where diversity was celebrated not as a goal, but as a natural, enriching part of everyday life. Maria's story had ignited a cultural shift, a ripple effect reaching new hires, seasoned employees, and leadership alike. The conversations sparked by her journey had prompted ongoing dialogue about equity, challenging old assumptions and inspiring new ways of thinking. But we also understood that legacy requires vigilance. Change is not static. It demands continuous effort, adaptation, and courage. Maria had become more than a leader. She was a symbol of possibility. Her journey reminded us all that true power lies in recognizing potential where it's least expected and in giving people the chance to rise. Looking ahead, we knew challenges would remain. Bias and barriers don't vanish overnight. Yet, armed with the lessons learned and the momentum gained, we were prepared to face the future with resolve. Maria smiled, a quiet determination shining through. "If I can inspire even one person to believe in themselves, to speak up, and to pursue their dreams, then every step we've taken has been worth it." Her words echoed the spirit of a new era, one where opportunity was not a privilege of a few, but a right for all. And as the company moved forward, that legacy of change and hope would continue to grow, shaping not just a workplace, but a better world.